Today we're going to be going through a little lecture. This is your homework that I gave you guys on Thursday for the Cold War to fill in your guided notes or your notebooks, whatever I told you guys to do. On Thursday, we talked about the early parts of the Cold War. What was it, the who's, the what's, all that kind of stuff. Now we're going to go more into specifics. So on Monday's class, we're going to kind of dive deeper into some of these things. I'm just kind of giving you guys just a very general idea for what these things are. Before you come into class, you kind of have an idea for what to expect and what these terms mean. All right, so the big thing about the Cold War, U.S. foreign policy. How are we going to deal with the Soviet Union during the Cold War, during the next 45 years of American history? Obviously, we talked about how with World War II, it was still kind of knocking heads, but the problem was that we had a same common enemy in Hitler. So we were able to team up for a little while, but once the war was over, that left us without really a common enemy. So we were able to kind of go back to kind of the sparring that we were kind of used to shortly after World War I. So here's the big thing: it's containment. This is going to be U.S. foreign policy. This is our big thing. Again, I guarantee you're going to see this on your guys' state test. Highlight it, know it, print it in your brain. Containment is major policy over the Cold War. When you think of Cold War, think of containment. I can't stress this enough how important that is. So what is containment? This was our biggest concern, was communism spreading to new countries in Europe and Asia. So our idea is to keep it contained to where it's at. It's okay where it's currently at. It's okay. So Soviet Union is already a communist country. We can't help that. We can't do anything about it. But we can't let communism seep into other countries in Europe and in Asia. We have to keep it where it's at. So we're going to be delegating all of our resources, energy, and efforts to keep it where it's located at. The U.S. must appear as the good guy, as capitalism and democracy is better than the Soviet Union, and vice versa. They're going to try to do the exact same thing about why is communism better than our style of government. So that's going to be the major theme that we're going to be kind of hitting home all throughout this unit. Wars. We fought Korea. We fought Vietnam, all over containment, not letting it spread to new areas. Okay? So, again, if you have any questions, let me know in class, but it's pretty self-explanatory. Even think of this cup. If communism exists in here, we want to cap it. Don't let it out of the cup. All right. So here are some examples. We'll talk more about this on Monday. So don't worry if you don't get it to understand it all right now. We're going to go more into examples to kind of dive deeper, which is why I'm having you guys do this. So there's two major examples of us containing communism. One is the Truman Doctrine. So after World War II, we had to figure out ways in understanding how do we stop the Soviets from doing what they're doing. Is saying, hey, Soviet Union, don't do that, and being passive and just using tough talk, is that going to do it with the Soviets? No. To do with the Soviets, you need to stand toe-to-toe with them, and you need to show them we're not going to tolerate X, Y, and Z. We're not going to tolerate your influence in forcing countries to become communists. So he passed this Truman Doctrine. Basically what that is that we pledged to support any country that needed support in fighting off communist groups within their countries. So what was going on after World War II is that you had several countries that were having revolutions going on, and you had these groups in these countries, communist groups that were trying to overthrow their capitalistic democracy countries. So for instance, Greece and Turkey, you guys see that there. So here's a little trick for you. Turkey, Truman, TT. Turkey, Truman. So in Turkey, there was communist rebels to overthrow. We're going to pledge support. We're going to give them $400 million to fight against these groups, weapons, aid, whatever, to do that. So we're going to do that to any country that's in need of that. 2, the Marshall Plan. Think of Marshall money, So Turkey, Truman, Marshall money. So what is a predictor of communism? Poverty. We talked about that last year on Global, this year so far. What happens in communism is the workers will rise up, the impoverished because of capitalism causes working conditions. We talk about this. Working in capitalist countries, industrialization caused a massive class of people that were in poverty. They weren't getting paid enough. So we knew after World War II, countries were going to be struggling. So what do we do to prevent communism from gaining grip? We're like, well, what if we give these countries who want our support, we give them a bunch of money to help rebuild their economies. So we had $17 billion earmarked to give to countries that wanted our help, to help them rebuild, help their economies. So hopefully they wouldn't need to revert to communism if the economies are good. So again, Marshall money, Turkey, Truman. All right, so to further kind of go about the whole divide is that you have alliances that'll be set up. It's us versus them. And countries they can't toe the line. They're going to be on one side or the other. Are you going to be a capitalist country, or are you going to be a democracy? And we want to make sure that the Soviet Union aren't influencing other countries to do what they want them to do. So two alliances. You have NATO. NATO is a Western European alliance of capitalist countries. So think of NATO, NA, North America. We're in North America. Canada's in North America. So, and our closest allies, Great Britain, France, Iceland, several other countries. But we all agree to make a pact. And by the way, this is still around today. NATO is still a thing. It's still an alliance. But they pull all of our resources together to make sure to fight and combat communist influence. They all have the same common interests, stopping communism. So you see this down here, this blue down here is all NATO. And obviously the United States way over here, that'd be blue as well. So in retaliation, once we did that, Soviet Union created their communist alliance called the Warsaw Pact. So Soviet Union forms an alliance with Eastern European countries. So all these countries in red, Poland, Czechoslovakia, Hungary, Romania, all these countries here would all be communist. That'd be their alliance. Now, these countries here, like I said, Poland, whatever, they would be something called a satellite nation. Those would be countries that would be in support of the Soviet Union. Some of it was voluntary, some of it was forced, as we'll talk about throughout the course of the unit. So again, two alliances, NATO, Warsaw. Think of North America, NA, US, Canada, and along with their allies. I'm going to skip this because we'll go over that Monday. Skip that. Okay, so what is Germany all about? Post-war Germany. You might need to skip a little bit in your notes, whatever. Find where it is or just write it down. So a lot of the big problems that dealt with U.S. and the Soviet Union dealt around Germany. What do you do with Germany after World War II? Last time didn't work with the severe reparations, severe punishment, so we know we need to do something different. So at the Yalta Conference, again, we talk about that during our World War II unit. The big three, Churchill, Stalin, FDR, they agreed to split Germany up into 4 zones. So here's the zone. So you see my cursor here? This pink zone right here will be the Soviet Union. That's called East Germany. Think so, north, south, east, west. So East Germany would be the Soviet zone. They would occupy that area, institute a communist government in that area. Western part of Germany would be divided between Britain, United States, and France. But basically, all three of these, they basically do the exact same thing. They're all democratic. They even go to the same money system, the Deutschmark. So they handle things very similar. So you basically have 3 against 1. So keep that in mind here in a little bit. So after World War II, the Western Germans, which is democratic, U.S. run, along with the British, they're thriving under capitalism. There's jobs, they're rebuilding, and things necessarily weren't so good in East Germany. So thousands from East Germany are going to escape into West Germany to find work. So you can tell it's probably not going to make the Soviets very happy. It'll make them look bad. Again, this whole idea of the Cold War is to not make yourself look bad, make the other person look bad. Well, in this case, in Stalin's case, that if you have people that are defecting into the Western zone because the economy is thriving, that's not going to do well for you and your reputation around the world. So keep that in mind. So that's Germany. Now, what's the capital of Germany or a big city? Berlin. So the same thing happened to Berlin. Next slide. Berlin was also divided up. You had East Berlin and West Berlin. So East is Soviets, just like East Germany. West Berlin is France, Britain, United States. Same thing. East Germany, Soviets. East Berlin, Soviets. West Germany, West Berlin, U.S., France, British. Same deal. Now you see this little line here. That will be eventually where the Berlin Wall will be located at, but not right now. There is no wall yet until the 1960s. Right now we're in the 40s. So basically, they said checkpoints in here, restricting certain people to not come in and out. So keep that in mind. We'll talk more about this tomorrow in class, but I just want to introduce to you kind of how Germany was divided up, how Berlin was divided up. Now, also kind of going back to here, you see this little smudge here. There's Berlin. So notice Berlin is located in East Germany. Problem is that if you look outside of Berlin, this is all East German territory. So you'll see what something happens that Stalin's going to do that's going to cause some problems, because he can shut down all roads, he can shut down all access to get into West Berlin, as we'll talk about again either tomorrow or Tuesday. All right. Thank you so much for your time. Adios. Thank you.